Well, Ruben, your thoughts on your team and their efforts today?
I think we did well. Of course, we don't want to play like this, defending so much and giving the ball to the opponent. But with all the games, with all the problems, and then the characteristics of the players, try to leave Lindelof, for example, without games, trying to let him without a lot of meters to cover. Casemiro is more comfortable in this kind of game, so I try to adapt and to imagine the game that we could win, and we proved that today.
Are you on the back foot mainly because it's a tactical decision from yourself, given the options you've got, the players you have available?
It's also the opponent. The last game for Champions League was high pressure from PSV, man to man, and they are harder to mark in this way. In the low block, we can control more the game, and then we have some good players for transition. I think Garnacho made a really complete game. So he was upset last Thursday, and today it was amazing.
That said, once you went ahead in the game, did you feel like the confidence grew and you became a much more threatening side?
Yeah, it's normal. It's normal, and we try to let the starting 11 until the goal, because you know that when you suffer a goal, all that the players tired from the last games is going to show, and we push a little further. I think it works. It worked a little bit. But we try to choose the best moments to press high, and we have some moments winning the ball, and we create a lot of chances to win the game today.
What did you make of the free kick? It's obviously a brilliant strike from Bruno, but we noticed almost straight away that the gap from the kicker to the wall looked big, and it seemed like your players were also aware of that, because when Odegaard had a free kick in the second half, there was a lot of United players around the ball making sure that gap was closed.
I think from my side, I think was clear, both free kicks. So when it's your free kick, you don't say nothing. When it is the opponent, you try to push because it's a big difference.
Okay, so the wall was too far away, but that's their problem, basically.
Yeah, no, it was fair. One for us, one for them. We had Bruno, and he solved the problem.
How challenging have you found today, Ruben? We spoke before the match about the fan protest, and that you could sort of sense that in the ground a little bit first half, but then it felt like once you went ahead and perhaps played a bit better second half, they came with you.
Of course, when you coach Manchester United, you cannot play too much like that. But the idea is to win the game, and not to show something just to the fans. It's try to win the game. Imagine one way to win the game in this context. So I know that is frustrating for the fans sometimes, but then when you score and you feel comfortable, and then you have a lot of opportunities, the game changes, the momentum changes, and they are happy. So we have to deal with that. Sometimes we have to do things that are not popular, but if you want to win, and imagine one way to win, we have to do it, because in the end we need the points.
The protesters said that they were showing their anger because the club is slowly dying. Did we see today that there is life in Manchester United, that it might not be immediately, but there is a path back to being the club of old?
I think it's clearly this club will never die. That is clear. You feel it in the street, not just in the stadium, but in the street. But you know that this is a big business, and maybe all the fans around this league felt that sometimes it's harder to go to the games, to pay for the tickets, and that is normal. We have to also in the Premier League receive a lot of money, and they have to address that, because they started this passion from the fans. We have to pay attention to that, but it's a difficult situation. So we just want to give them this a lot of effort. Sometimes in the low block, I know it's frustrating, but in the future we are not going to play like that. But in the moment, we try to win games.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ruben.
He's almost apologising for that approach, using that tactical setup today against Arsenal. Gary, have your say on the free kick. You weren't here when we were discussing it earlier. And the advantage that it gives you, if that wall is not 10 yards, it's as big as 11 or maybe even more.
I'm sure through sort of, I don't know, virtual reality or something, if you move that wall forward 10
1 yard.
One yard, and then got them to jump. I mean, when the ball goes over the wall that low and goes in the net that low, you know something's gone wrong, either from the keeper or from the wall.
Is the referee marking it out?
Yeah, I mean, I just looked at it from the sort of, usually you think, oh, that wall's too close. You never, ever think that wall's too far away, but just look miles away. And then the Arsenal wall's huge in terms of the players that are in it, but you thought, I fancy Bruno here, because the gap's big. I mean, I think your point around the goalkeeper's right. He's too far over to that side to start with. But then if a ball goes halfway up the net in the goal over the wall, something's gone wrong.
But it's also a good distance, isn't it? 25 yards, as opposed to if he was striking it from 20 yards.
It is, but that ball just misses the Arsenal heads. If they're another yard, well, 1.2 yards forward, I'm sure, and they jump, or even, usually the wall ends up about 9 yards away because they creep, as the lad said before. So if you're 9 yards and you're creeping and you're jumping, they stop. They hit that. It hits the head. So it's. I mean, from an Arsenal perspective, I think they'll be disappointed because usually you feel that you're too far away and you start to creep and question. Obviously, United's players were aware of that in the second half.
Are we seeing the green shoots here? It was a lovely spring afternoon. Was there something here for Manchester United fans to cling on to,
I'm
Roy?
not sure, but I don't think where the manager feels he needs to apologise for the team sitting in. He's got to find a way to get good results. And sitting in, there's nothing wrong with sitting in, even for big clubs at home. Obviously, you'd want them to be a bit better in terms of possession. But if that's the way you can get results against teams who you think are in a better place than you, and obviously higher up the league and more confident, what's wrong with sitting in? I don't know why he needs to apologise for that. But it was a battling performance. Before the game, you thought, well, we take a draw. But listen, you have to give him a little bit of credit. But it was still, in general, I thought the game was of poor quality. But we saw 2 brilliant goals. But a long way back from United. Listen, we keep saying that. But they showed some battling qualities. I give them that.
You also heard him say there was obviously an acceptance, apologies about the style, but we need points.
Yeah, which is fair enough. Well, he said it. Exactly what you got to do. You've got to find a way to get results at the moment. That's not going to be the way he wants to play going forward. He knows that. But I actually think he's bright enough to realise. I think he's got to be... And this goes back to my point. Like, we're going to talk about what his win percentage is at the moment and how well they're doing. I often listen to what a manager says and how much sense they talk. And I listened to other managers previously try to almost insult fans' intelligence by saying, yeah, actually, we played well today, and yeah, we are really showing signs. No, you weren't, and no, you're not. Whereas this guy understands the team is not of the level that it should be. Now, when I look at the Man United team, this squad, how many of them would have got in these the squads? It wouldn't even... Bruno might have got on the bench. At most. Apart from that, none of them. So that's how much the quality has gone down. So if you're not going to have those types of players around you, you've got to improve it, you've got to get your recruitment right. And when is that? How long is that going to take? Is that 2, 3, 4 windows? Who knows? But he is well aware, and he's probably the first one that's actually come out and said it, that we are not good enough. So if you get rid of him, you're only going to have another manager coming and work with an average bunch of players. They're not good enough, these players right now.
I think this group is better than 14th, or Jamie?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that's not just all his fault. That's obviously a joint manager's job.
Yeah.
So there's not. But I do. When I look at Bournemouth and what other teams have done and how well they're doing, and you look at the league table and you see some of the sides at the bottom, that shouldn't be the case. We know that. But I still think that it is an absolute time is of the essence. You can't just keep chopping and changing managers every week because that's not going to bring success here.
But there's the balance that he's trying to strike. And it's interesting to hear him talk about it today. He's come in and very clearly wants to change his style and he wants to recruit in terms of that style. But they need to get points now. Do you think he's got that balance right since he's come in? 5 wins from 17.
No, not at the moment. I think he's come in and he's stuck to his principles. He plays free at the back, and he wants to play free at the back. And I think he probably got the job because he wants to play free at the back. So why change now? It's going to take a bit of time. I thought they'd done well. I thought they'd come in, they sat 10 behind the ball, they had a game plan. Arsenal never really looked like scoring. I can't remember Onana making many saves. And they looked a little bit of a threat when it went 1-1. I felt the shackles come off, and it was like, oh, we can go out now. You know, when it was 1-0, they were sort of defending too deep for me. And when it went 1-1, I thought Arsenal for the next 15 minutes to win this game. It went the other way, and Man United did. No, I like what he did today. You know, he come here, 70,000 people, sat 10 behind the ball. You know, I like managers that do that. It takes a lot. You know, Sean Dyche was a bit like that at Everton. I like them managers that don't listen to the crowd, because you can get involved in the crowd.
Nuno Espirito Santo has Nottingham Forest third with the lowest possession in the league.
Yeah, but they've got a lot of pace on the counter attack, and they've got an out-and-out centre forward who holds the ball up. And the most important thing, they score the first goal in a lot of football matches. You know, Man United don't score the first goal in a lot of football matches.
But he is very honest, Gary. He's talked. He's almost welcomed questions about his own position and his own future at this football club. In reference to Arsenal and Mikel Arteta this week, is he going to get the time that he needs to make the change that is necessary here at Manchester United?
I think they'll back him. I think that they'll back him in the summer, and I think they'll give him money and chance to obviously alter this squad. He is positive. I think that he's got nothing to lose by being positive, because, to be honest with you, the managers over the years have tried to defend players here and tried to sort of not call them out. I mean, he's called them. You talk about what we say in this studio, but he delivered the harshest line on this squad. He said they're the worst team in Manchester United's history. And to hear that from your manager is unusual. In fact, it's rare.
Was he wrong to do that?
No, because I think it generally could be. It's a really poor squad, and obviously it's been expensively recruited over the last few years, but it needs ripping up. And the lack of pace, I mean, Merson just talked about there, the lack of pace in midfield and attack and in wing-back areas is unbelievable. I mean, you've seen up front today, you've got Xerxes, Garnacho, who's got a little bit of pace, he's sharp, and Eriksen. Last week it was Højlund, Xerxes and Eriksen. You've got Casemiro and Fernandes in midfield who aren't the quickest, and you've got two wing-backs who are full-backs who can't, to be fair, create up top. So his attacking options to score goals are absolutely none. I mean, you talk about Højlund, he's living off less than scraps.
But they did create chances today,
No, they did.
That's the ironic thing about it. They sat in because it was against Arsenal, but sometimes they should sit in against lesser teams. I think your ego and pride can get in the way, going, we're Man United, we're at home, we're going to go after team. No, even against lesser teams, sit in. Yeah, you mightn't have real pace, but you still have like lads today, lads get into good positions and a kind of mentality to get into the box.
The only manager in the last 10 years who's been able to actually play on the front foot successfully, that's been Van Gaal. The rest of them have ended up coming in with fantastic ambition to be a front foot team, a pressing team, but they've ended up at the back of their own box. Amorim, Ten Hag, Ole, Mourinho, Moyes have always ended up back at the edge of their own box, and that has got to change. I'm not saying you can do it sometimes, but you have to have the ability to also to be able to sustain attacks in the final third, like Arsenal have done today. That's when you are a really good team, when you sustain possession in the actual opposition half. No United manager's been able to do that apart from Van Gaal.
So is it just a question of swallowing this very bitter pill this season, finishing 14th, trying to go as far as you can in the Europa League?
Yeah, obviously they'll be hanging their hat and doing well in Europe, yeah, and suffer the next few months. Get to the summer, move lads on, which is easier said than done.
Thursday's
but we go
big.
back to it.
Thursday's
yeah,
huge.
huge game from, of course. And we've spoken about other clubs over the last few months. The key to any club, bit of success, is get the recruitment right. You get that wrong, you will suffer for a number of years.
Well, Mikel, so much dominance, so much control. Why do you think you didn't get your full rewards for that dominance and control?
Because when we have them there with the first half that we've done, that were exceptional in the high press, in the direct play, because they didn't want to play, how we recuperate the ball and then play forward, how we have them there, our counter press, everything, but we like to put the knife there in the last 20-25 meters to test much more the keeper, because we have some unbelievable situation that we missed the last shot, the last pass. Okay, and then one action is a long ball, we lose the man as regain, and then they are running. And you have to rely on a free kick and individual quality. That's not a good bet for us. They score from that, and then they become alive because we have them. And in the second half, we try, we score the goal, and when they're really deep. And they had really a lot of problems, and you could sense that they were tired. We didn't capitalize because we rushed the game. We give so many balls away, no circulation. We start to lose duels, and we could have ended up losing it.
So it was mentioned in commentary, actually, 2/3 of the pitch, best team in the league, perfect, kind of as you've said there. So why was that knife, that incisive moment missing in the final third, do you think?
Because that's sometimes what is missing, and we tried in various ways, but ultimately the execution there, it has to be in the right moment, with the right weight of pass, into the right player to after execute. And it's true that we have a lot of situations in the second half. I think we have 3 or 4 big chances, but very frustrated as well how we conceded certain transition moments is not good enough.
So Declan Rice stood here and said something very similar, particularly the last 10 minutes. He was talking about just doing things that you never do. What happened there?
Taking goal kicks there. We were catching the ball. We want to run, give the ball away. Then there's another transition, another wave, which against them is just a shot in your foot, because they have so much quality that they're going to pick the right player, and normally the game should end up with a goal of Bruno.
Does that frustrate you most, actually, just that, whether it's the last part of the game? It's like, I don't recognise my team here.
It happens, so it's part of us, so we have to get better at that.
What did you make of the free kick? You already mentioned the conceding of the free kick. It comes from like a hopeful long ball. Does that annoy you more than like the strike itself?
Yeah, that way we give the ball away, yes, and then, okay, you give the foul because you are rushing, then he still needs to do that, but you know, and we discussed that. Don't give them the option because it's very likely that this is going to happen.
Was Bruno's job made easier by a wall that was far away from the ball?
I don't know. I don't know that.
No, are you not mindful of that at all? Because it's been raised by United players, it was raised by Declan. So it's 11.2 yards.
Then he's been very smart. I'm sorry. He's been smart and he took advantage of that. This is football.
No, okay, I mean, I raised it because I thought you might expect the referee to deal with it.
Well, yeah, I do.
And it makes the free kicks job easier.
He's smarter than the ref. That's okay. They allowed him to do it.
Okay, so how difficult was it second half then against that low block? Do you think frustration plays a part in the mistakes that start people?
Because you are so good in the first half, you do so many good things, and you go 1-0 down. And mentally, it's painful. But we tried. We went for it. We scored the goal. We were really trying. But as well, we opened the gate to lose the game, and the game was completely closed. There was no chance we could lose the game, and we opened it up ourselves.
Do you excuse the players a little bit at least when you look at the concentration of injuries you've got in that forward line? Obviously, Martinelli comes on, but no Saka, no Havertz, no Jesus.
I mean, I would defend my players all the time because the will to do what they want is no question about that. But in those moments, we have to be better as a team. That's it.
And do you regret not signing a striker in January? Perhaps that extra player? No, it's not about that?
No, it's not about that.
Okay. Mikel, one more. Yeah. I have to ask you about the title race because it's 15 points now. Is it too much? Right.
No was the response, I think, to the question. Gary Neville has joined us, as you can see. We've got 3 former managers here who've been in pressurised situations of various sorts. But what did you make of that?
He was agitated, wasn't he? I mean, he's agitated walking over towards the Arsenal fans at the end, and I can see why. I know what he's saying about the first half, about how well they played. They dominated the game, but it's not line ball, where you have to basically run the ball over the 18-yard line and put your foot on it to basically score a goal. You need to put the ball in the back of the net, and he knows that better than anybody. I think Arsenal, for a couple of years, have done that really well. But the biggest inquest at Arsenal at the end of this season will be why did we not sign a striker? Now, is that because he wasn't provided with one by the recruitment team? They haven't signed one now for 2 or 3 years. And did he not want one? Is that the answer? But they will. I don't know. It's a mystery as to how they've ended up in a position whereby it's all on Kai Havertz, because he doesn't fancy Gabriel Jesus as a striker anyway. And the same stuff that we saw and seen for quite a long time now with Arsenal is that they're recycling the ball really well around the edge of the box, but they haven't got that ability to be able to cut through teams, and it's costing them.
Ultimately, Paul, is that how this season is going to be defined by Arsenal, that failure to have a striker, someone who can step in when they have suffered these injuries?
Yeah, I would have said so. I think because if you look at the games that they've, no disrespect to West Ham, Nottingham Forest and Man United, I think if they got their full team out and the 3 forwards playing in Saka, Martinelli and Havertz, I think they take 7 points at least out of them 3 games instead of 2. But I still don't think that's enough to have caught Liverpool. I think we're just covering over the cracks a little bit, if I'm being honest.
I agree.
I'm with Jamie. I don't think it's been great this season. I don't think they've been as dominant in football matches as what we've seen them in the last couple of years. I think they've fallen off a little bit, in my opinion.
But is that because he hasn't had the tools?
No, they weren't playing the way they had all their team at the start. There wasn't that efficiency or that calmness or that ability to kill teams off that we've seen in previous years this season. I thought they were so reliant on set pieces. That's obviously not working at the moment. I don't think that there's been a joy in Arsenal's play this season compared to last year before. And if you go back to the year before that, when they had Xhaka in midfield as well, I just don't see it. This year there's been a lot of, and even with Bukayo Saka, there were games at home when they couldn't finish teams off. They haven't been at the level they have in previous years, I don't think.
And 10 draws, is it? 10 draws, you're not winning any league title with 10 draws.
So what does that come down to, do you think, Roy? Is it the makeup of the squad? Is it the approach of a head coach who has only known progress so far in his 5 years at Arsenal?
Yeah, a bit of everything, and I'm sure there would have been frustration from the last few years that they didn't get over the line or they didn't get themselves a cup or whatever it might be. And then you have the injuries, and then we saw the manager there. He certainly looks frustrated. He, when obviously the title was gone a few weeks ago, but he would still want his club and his team to show great mentality, to say, I still want to come here and try and keep some sort of pressure on Liverpool. But over the last 2 or 3 games, that's gone now. And we mentioned it earlier. I think the biggest concern now is what's happening with the teams behind him. They've lost that momentum for the season. I think what we saw here today was nowhere near good enough. And they've set really high standards the last few years. So on one hand, you want to give them credit, but we always say the next step is the hardest step in terms of trying to win a league title.
Well, do you think it's a matter of time, Gary,
why
before they make that next step?
Well, maybe, but why was he so agitated when Patrick asked him that question about the striker? Normally, when you see a manager act like that, and he sort of walked off the. I mean, he seemed to walk off. That's what I looked like.
Maybe that's a frustration that it didn't happen. Maybe he really wanted it to happen.
But that's my point. You know, if you see a manager sort of losing, it's going a step too far, but walk off at an interview when he's been asked a question, you normally think that something's sort of getting to them, it's coming on top a little bit. Is he sick of being asked that question? Does he think that's too simple an answer that he hasn't got a striker? But the fact of the matter is it'll still continue to be asked. The reason it'll continue to be asked is because there are hundreds of thousands of Arsenal fans who for many months and years now have said we need a striker. It's not just, you know, us in this studio or Patrick Davison who's asking him a question. Arsenal fans, and you can't kid football fans, they know their team as well as anybody. They need a striker. They needed a top-class striker in that changing room. And I do think a top-class striker would have made a big difference. I agree with what they've said here, that actually the step up in performance. But Liverpool can not play well. And because of their options up front, can win games. Yesterday, they can be 1-0 down against Southampton. You were watching the game, Merson, on Soccer Saturday, and I was listening to you. And they can just, through moments of Diaz, Nunez, others, win games. You know, they've got options off the bench. Mikel Arteta has not got those options.
Would you sit there with confidence, Jamie, and say that next season, OK, if they sign a striker, that Arsenal will be challenging for the title?
Yeah, they will. Yeah, absolutely. I'm confident in that. I think, but they've got to start an elite striker. And the problem is, how hard are they to find? It's incredibly difficult. No one really wants to sell their best player. They always get spoken about with Alexander Isak, who is obviously elite, because obviously you see the goals he's got and how he plays. But it's not going to be that easy. Do you think that Arsenal are going to be the only players in town, even if he were to leave Newcastle? Barcelona are talking about wanting him as well. There's been a load of clubs that will want him. But they've got to find someone. Is it Sesko as well? They've been mentioned in trying to get. But it's just a case of, I think the guy said it earlier on, a striker. Because even though Kai Havertz has done well, they signed him as a number 8. They signed him as an extra midfield player. Then you ask him to go and be a killer in the box. And yes, he had some good moments, but is he an out-and-out striker that's going to get you 20 goals? Is he going to get you Salah's numbers? That's what they've got to try to find. And if they do, with their defensive stability, they've got a really good goalkeeper that we all like, and midfield, they will certainly go close next season.
Roy, you said the next step is the hardest. Do you have confidence that they will make this step under Mikel Arteta? No. Why not?
Why would I? What makes you think they can do it? Or the manager can do it? They've got close over the last few years, and City will be strong next year. Listen, I'm sure Liverpool will be strong next year. Where's the evidence to think they can do it? Would it be get another striker in? Yeah, obviously that would help. Have they got the right mentality? Has this manager, we just seen there at the interview, getting frustrated, which is fine, because you see a different side to managers when they're winning every week. It's great. We've seen that even with Pep. But all of a sudden, when they're losing matches or they're not getting the rewards they think they deserve, they get all agitated and frustrated. And that's fine. I've been there and done it. But what is the evidence to think that if they get somebody to get 20 goals, that we'll sit there and go, well, that'll be the difference. I don't think it necessarily will be. I
suppose the evidence might be that they got 89 points last season, 85 the season before. It looks like they will fall short of this season because of the injuries they had.
Yeah, so
if they get those players back and they can add to that group.
Yeah, of course, all ifs and ands. But again, do you think City and Liverpool are just going to stand still? They're going to keep looking to improve. Listen, Pep will bounce back. I think Liverpool will be stronger next year. These teams aren't going anywhere, and they've had a bit of a dip this year, particularly Man City. We don't know what Chelsea are. We don't know what one or two other teams improving. But what's the evidence, again, from the Arteta or this group of players that they've got that mentality to challenge? We talk about it's not like challenging for a title, but to me, in my mentality, it's about winning titles, not challenging.
It feels a bit like whack-a-mole for them, really, doesn't it? Whereby they're just always sort of like... the first season they didn't win, it was because they didn't have Saliba and they needed someone to back him up, so then they signed defenders. Last season, it was because, so they go and sign players that, you know what I mean? It feels like they're always behind. This season, it's because they haven't got strikers or attacking players, so they're going to go and say... But the other teams are still improving, as Roy says. The other teams are still getting better. So I think that it's not just about a striker, it's probably about a couple of forwards. You know, Liverpool have forwards that can play across...
Options,
forward options that can play across that front line, that will score goals and chip in. Gakpo chips in. You know, Diaz chips in. Nunez chips in. Jota chips in. They all chip in with goals. Salah does more than chip in. You know what I mean? But a couple of forwards to add to that group and keep the defence and midfield as it is, they have got a chance. But are they going to get those players? And they always feel like they're one step behind.
Paul, just have the final say on this in terms of what Roy's been talking about, that perhaps Roy has a lack of conviction about them taking that next step with Mikel Arteta. What's your take on that?
I think they'll be in the title race next season. I think they've got to buy in the summer. They have to buy, and they will be in it if they don't get injured. If injuries, I said it before, if Van Dijk was out for 3 months and Salah were out for 3 months, Liverpool wouldn't be top of the league and lost one game. You know, they make differences. You know, you're never going to get a squad like Man City assembled over the last 3, 4, 5 years. That's never going to happen again. So you'll have to rely on players coming into the team, whoever they may be. Liverpool at the moment have got their team, and as Gary said, them forwards, that's why they're going to win the league. They've all got at least 10 goals and Salah's got 20 or 30 in him. They've got to rely on players to come into the team that are not going to be better than what they've got. And at the moment, the front three, we've got a young kid who's going to be a superstar. We've got Trossard, who really was brought in as an understudy, and a centre midfield player playing up front.
What about
would
Sterling,
never happen in any other country.
What about Sterling? I mean, Mikel wanted him in, and then he's left him on the bench for 90 minutes at Old Trafford, and they need a goal.
I thought today would have been all right. I thought it was a tight game. He gets the ball and he can dribble. Do you know what I mean? He might get a nick of free kick. And, you know, if I was Sterling now, you'd be thinking, will I be playing for Arsenal ever again?
Yeah, but the question is, you were saying, will they be in the race? I think they will be in the race.
Oh, they'll be in the title race.
Yeah, but it's no good being in the race if you're not going to win it.
Well, you've got to be in it to win it.
Yeah, but listen, we're talking about Arsenal here. Listen,
well, I haven't won the league for over 20 years.
No, that's why I'm saying, so why are we sitting here thinking, yeah, we could say that for the next 10 years they'll be in the race, but it's no good being third, fourth. Who do you think is actually going to go and win it?
Roy,
that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about small clubs here.
But I thought
Forest might finish ahead of them.
They've demonstrated, I think, last season and the season before that they've got hallmarks of a team, I think, that can go on to win the title, a little bit like the progression that Klopp made at Liverpool. And I'm disappointed in them this season that they've fallen short. When City aren't there, and I thought Arsenal would be there. And to be fair, Liverpool have had a fantastic season, but they've not delivered this season. This is the biggest problem, I think, this season for Mikel Arteta. Losing the title last season and the season before, I don't think was that much of a problem for him.
Do you think this one will hurt even more?
This one will hurt more. This one will hurt more.
They were in a great position.
What Man City
they were in a great position 3 years ago. So they've been in good positions where they've had people scoring goals. And was it 2 or 3 years ago, people said, oh, they're out of the FA Cup, it's great. I'm glad they won easily in Europe during the week, because if they had a tough game coming up, they'd be saying, oh, well, we're getting ready for next week. They had no excuses coming to United today. Yeah. Everything was there for Arsenal to go, listen, you've had a good win during the week. You don't have to worry about next week. You can come and put a show on. And obviously United were on about like the intensity. I think there was one booking in the game. You got to turn up and flex your muscles and say, we're Arsenal, we're doing well, we're making progress, we've had a tough season, but we still do a good job on you. Didn't even do a job on United today. And United were there for the taking. United were just sitting and hoping for the best. They couldn't even do that. So why do we think next year this Arsenal team might get a striker in and they're going to win the league title? Well, I won't be putting any bets on Arsenal next year, let me tell you that. Not what I saw today.
When he's 17, been amazing since he's come to the side. Had a bit of a down day today. It happens when you're a young kid. But they shouldn't be relying on him to be the star at Old Trafford. They've got a central midfield player playing up front. I know they've got injuries, but if you're second and you're chasing to win the league, you need more options than that. And that's why I said, in a way, I actually think they've overachieved in many ways, because this group of players has done amazing. But I still think they need two difference makers to take you from here to take the next step. If you look at what you're competing against, you look at, the Haalands and the Salahs, they need a guy like that. If they get it, they could win everything. Yeah. I really believe that.
Did you share that opinion at the end of last season?
Yeah, everybody did. All the Arsenal fans.
Everybody's thinking it was going to happen in respect of who they're going to get, because that's what we need now. We got so close twice. Looks like we're going to probably get close again this season. You think you just need that piece and then people to stay fit, and you're probably going to challenge them. I think that we'll be a lot closer to Liverpool with that striker who could take those chances in those moments what Arsenal have needed, like we needed today in the first half.
Look what Liverpool has. Look at all the different options. You've got Mo Salah, Jota,
Gakpo,
Diaz,
the six of them. Whereas I think if Saka's out, which he's been absolutely amazing for them, if he's out, is Martinelli going to get the goals? Yeah, I know. A couple of seasons ago he got
15.
You got 15. That's great. But again, those goals have dried up. Havertz is a great player, but he's not a number 9. So you're relying on people to do something that's not their expertise. Just go get an Osimhen or somebody. Go get somebody that is his job to score goals. You got every great goalkeeper, best defence in the league. Midfield is absolutely fantastic. Just need another one in there with Declan and Ødegaard. But go get a striker and a centre mid. You can go win everything. The money's coming in. They're selling the Smith Rowes and the those types of players. They must have the money.
It was very, very low, wasn't it, in the summer? So.
Yeah, it was. That's why, again, you could go back to January and say something should have been done to strengthen. I don't know who they could have got, but that's not the job is to try and find somebody. and it didn't happen. And then, so you have to feel like, again, we have to start thinking about the summer, because you watch a game like that again and you just feel like it's just something missing. Options up front, and we needed that even before
Mikel Arteta in that sense. Do you feel for Mikel Arteta?
I've said on here, I don't think that he's been backed very well by the people upstairs, especially, like I mentioned it twice now, that we finished second. What more do you need? He's turned the club. Well, you can't let a manager like Mikel maybe say, you know what, your ambition isn't matching mine now. I've done it. What, I'm going to finish second 3 times, and you still haven't got a striker for me? 3 winders, like 5 winders in 3 years. You know, this question's got to be asked.
100% agree. Mikel's done his job. He's turned this club completely around. All that negativity that was in and around at that time with Arsene leaving and Unai Emery coming in, he's fixed all that. Got rid of the ones he didn't want, created an amazing culture. They're right there. Now you got to back him. He's there. You can't tell me Mikel didn't want a striker in January. Then all of a sudden, then you over-rely on Saka and his fitness, and Kai Havertz, who virtually plays every game. They break down. Martinelli breaks down, and then you're left with a 17-year-old who's a brilliant 17-year-old, by the way, and a central midfield player who's playing as a striker. That can't be. You think back to what Arsenal had back in the day up front. Bergkamp, Wright, Perez, Overmars, Kanu, Henry. I mean,
Will Todd.
Literally, they had 7, and now you're relying on a really good number 10 in Kai Havertz to do the job for you, and now Mourinho. It just seems, I don't understand why that centre-forward position is almost died out, righty. It's like there isn't that many options up there.
But then you look at we're talking about centre forwards, then you look at someone like Rasmus Højlund. Now they've paid what they paid from 63, 70, whatever it is, and if you're going to be paying that money, you are taking a chance. So you look at Højlund, you know, it was 63, whatever it is. You look at Darwin Núñez, he was 80 something, and then you look at Isak, he was 60 something. It's a gamble. And it's, I don't care what anyone says, whoever you're picking, it's going to be a gamble. So you might as well go in with what you're going to go in for, do your due diligence on that player for how you want to play Arsenal, and just go and get him and make it work, because you can see it can come undone for you, like we're seeing with Højlund at the moment, unfortunately for him, and we're seeing with Darwin Núñez. You know, it can go wrong for you, but at the same time, you've got to dip your feet in that water.
Okay.
But he's sniffing with them instincts, and you've got the perfect person next to you. He's just a little bit old.
He's seen his knee swelling today as well.
I meant you, Steve.
Scholes is just mid-table Spanish to solve it.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, but you know what I mean, though.
I do know what you mean. I ain't what you're saying.
Brilliant football, but it's just... It's the, no, look, they're second in the league. They're in the Champions League. Look, they're a brilliant team. And probably, I wish my team were as bad as Arsenal have been today. Do you know what I mean? But that's just the way I see it. A mid-table Spanish team, a very good, very attractive-looking Spanish team.
A nice
just
one,
can't
Scholesy.
Quite get over the line.
Exactly. I'll give you that, Scholesy.
Now, listen, United get a point to set them up for Thursday. It's their season, isn't it? Thursday. I mean, is that a little bit of belief to draw with Arsenal today, to take into that?
Yes. Look, I don't think the season's just on Thursday. They have to win Thursday, of course, and there's 3 more rounds to go after that. But yeah, look, that is massive for them. That is the season in a nutshell. The Europa League now, it's been a really disappointing league campaign, although they probably should have won today, and against the better teams, strangely enough, that they have seemed to find the performance from somewhere. We'll see what happens on Thursday. I thought they were quite comfortable over there in Spain, and I expect them to go through this week.
Okay, thank you very much indeed as always, Scholesy.
Scholesy.
Cheers, lads. See you later.
Thanks, Scholesy.
Bye-bye.